Senior Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar is practicing in Bombay High Court as well as Supreme Court of India. Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar is basically from Kolhapur district, and he has been awarded with various awards. Likewise, he has been awarded with Raghavendra Fadnis Award in the year 2012 and Shivrashtra Bhushan Puraskar in the year 2017. Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar is writing for the various magazines in India as well as the overseas magazines. Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar has been invited and he's been a part of a very well-known and famous lecture series of Pune by name Vasant Vyakhyanmala. Recently, Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar has been awarded with a very well-known award of Marathi newspaper Lok Satta, Tarun Tejankit. Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar has delivered more than 250 lectures for the Advocates Bar Association, for the Rotary Club, and for the police machineries to enhance their knowledge. Today, I request Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar to deliver his lecture on the topic of digital evidence for the members of Thane District Bar Association, as well as all the viewers who are watching this video online. I request Advocate Yuvraj Narvankar. Sir, over to you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Very good morning to you all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Sir. Yes. So I first of all thank Thane District Court Bar Association for having me here and giving me a chance to interact with you all. There was some delay to start this. Our apologies for that. There were some technical glitches, I guess. Friends, today the topic is 65B. Why this topic? Let me just tell you. In fact, you might have heard some talks on 65B. I want to have this talk a little more practical. I want to have this talk pragmatic in a sense that you should be able to use it in the court of law. Why 65B? Friends, a recent survey from a Delhi-based institution indicates that in the coming time, because of the social distancing norms, more than 50% of the transactions are going to be online compared to the paper transactions. What it also means is that more than 50% of the evidence that we lawyers have to deal with is going to be a digital evidence. And friends, this is a big thing. Because frankly speaking, and let me confess on behalf of you all that we are not very well equipped to deal with the digital evidence. Our understanding of the digital evidence begins with 65B and ends with 65B, which may not be a very good and rosy picture. The 65B carries around it an aura of authenticity. If you produce an email in the court of law and if you produce a 65B certificate, you know, we feel that our job is over. The judge feels the job of an advocate is over. But friends, 65B is a tip of an iceberg and there is so much underneath that. And that's the reason, if you look at the topic today, it is how to prove and how to disprove the electronic evidence. And I'm going to focus on disproving the electronic evidence. Friends, if you want to enter a house, there is only one door from which you enter and through which you exit. So 65B is the only weapon that I'm going to use to prove as well as to disprove. Proving is easy. Proving is relatively an easy task because if I produce an email and if I accompany that along with a 65B certificate, done is the task. I don't need to do anything, but to disproving takes special efforts. If I may request the admin to mute all the participants, there is some disturbance, I think, in the audio. There is an option for muting all the participants, if all can be muted. So let me begin. Let me tell you what is the problem with the 65B certificate. Friends, we all are aware of the concept of proving and disproving. Section 4 of the Section 3 of the Evidence Act tells us what is proving. When the court believes into existence of certain fact, we say the fact is proved. And the same section defines what is disproved. When the court believes into something that something does not exist, When the court believes into non-existence of something, we say it is disproven. Now let me tell you what is the problem. Can I please request the admin to unmute only the speaker and mute everyone else? That's the request. Please mute your mic. There is an option on your screen to mute yourself. Please mute the mic. That's the request to all the listeners. I'll give you an example, friends. कोर्टामध्ये उद्या जर तुम्ही एखादी ईमेल कोर्टामध्ये सबमिट केली आणि एखादं सेलडीड कोर्टामध्ये सबमिट केलं, and if I ask my lawyer friends to cross examine someone on a cell deed, I can guarantee you all that my lawyer friend there can ask more than 100 questions on the basis of that cell deed. Ki he cell deed koni execute केलं, who made these initials, who signed this cell deed, who executed, who got the stamp paper, and so on. But if I give you an email and if I ask you to ask or cross examine a witness on the basis of an email, I can assure you, you won't ask more than 10 questions. At the highest, you will ask, whose email ID is this? Do you recognize this email? Are you aware of this content? And that's it. There will be a couple of more questions, not more than 10. Why is this so? Or suppose if I'm cross-examining a witness on the basis of a CDR or a CCTV, I don't ask him more than 15 or 20 questions. And this is something that today I want to just open a window for you all to listen and to understand what exactly lies beneath 65B. There is some disturbance again. If I may request all to please mute the mic of the participant.
Sir, I'm interrupting you.
Yes.
Advocate Sachin Sorte, inadvertently you have become the host of the meeting. Hello. Advocate Sachin Sorte, please unmute your audio. Advocate Sachin Sorte. Advocate Sachin Sorte, you are listening the meeting. Please unmute your audio. Advocate Sachin Sorte. Hello. Advocate Sachin Sorte. Advocate Sachin Sorte, please listen. Hello. Advocate Sachin Sorte.
I think, sir, sorry to interrupt. There is an option to mute all the participants.
Yes, sir. There is option, but the option is with host, and Sachin Sorte has inadvertently become a host.
Oh, okay. If anyone has his mobile number, can we try? If it will be in the participants list. I think there is always a number, if I'm not wrong. Okay, can I continue in the meantime, because I think the listeners are waiting and yes. And sorry to keep you all waiting. There are always some technical glitches. Let's not really worry about it. Let's focus. Okay, friends, in the year 2000, we had an amendment by way of an Information Technology Act. 2 मिनिटं विचार करा. 2000 सालाच्या अगोदर सुद्धा there was an electronic evidence. There was an electronic evidence even before 2000. How we were proving that? Because there was no 65B. There was a way to prove that. And you will have that from section 61 to section 65. It's a part of chapter 5 of the Evidence Act. Okay. And now with this, let us begin to decode section 65B. I may request all the audience to please open on your mobile section 65B, because I am going to literally threadbare and decode and dissect each and every word and then explain you the basic concepts. Because 65B is not a section. It is the accumulation. It is the potpourri of several concepts which I need to tell you. Let us begin. 65A. 65A says the contents of an
lecturer is on mute. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Yuvraj sir, hello.
Yuvraj sir, please unmute your audio. Yuvraj sir.
Told that I'm not audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Now
okay.
you-
Okay. Now
We are talking about. We have missed.
I think now am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Yes. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65 are these 5 sections, and 65B gives overriding effect to 65B over all these sections. What 61 tells me is how to tells me what is the primary evidence. 63 tells me what is the secondary evidence. Xerox copies, certified copies, oral accounts of a document, and so on. 64 tells me something very important. It says a document must be proved by a primary evidence and by nothing else, except the situations which are mentioned in section. Those are the conditions which are mentioned in section 65, and one of the condition is section 65D. Please have a look at 65D. It says when the original is not easily movable, you can adduce secondary evidence. उदाहरण देतो तुम्हाला, एखादं CCTV footage if you want to produce in the court of law, okay, the CCTV recording is in the server. Server is not easily movable. You can't move a server from a mall shop to a court easily. So it is something which is not easily movable. So it falls under section 65D. And it was this section under which we were all proving the electronic records. And here I want to deal with 2 basic judgments, which all of you might have heard of, some of you might have read. I am presuming that you do not know. I am starting from scratch, and then we will go to a little advanced, and then we will end with the advanced level. 2 judgments. First is Navjot Sandhu judgment, which came in the year 2004. What the court says in Navjot Sandhu? Supreme Court says that 65B is merely an option. If you want to prove the electronic evidence, 65B is merely an option. You may use it, you may not use it, because 65B4 is there, which 65.4 is there, which I just read, 65D. So 65B is merely an option. A party may choose to use it, party may choose not to use it. Because of this judgment, friends, 65B almost became redundant. No one was using it. जणू तो म्हणजे पुस्तकात नसल्यासारखाच त्याची अवस्था झाली. People were not even looking at 65B because Supreme Court is saying 65B is an option. A party may choose to use it, party may choose not to use it. And these friends' position remained for almost, please take the note of another judgment, Anwar versus Bashir, which came in there 2014. You can take a citation, it's 2014, 10th volume, SCC 473. What happened in this judgment? The Supreme Court overruled Navjot Sandhu's case, and Supreme Court focused on the word notwithstanding. Supreme Court said, sorry, you cannot take recourse to 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Out they go. What remains is only 65B because of the word notwithstanding. Notwithstanding means that this section alone will prevail when it comes to electronic record. Everything else goes out. Because you all know the special law prevails over the general law, and 65B is a special law for electronic evidence. Out goes the judgments. And friends, this is the crux. This is the ratio of Anwar versus Bashir. So Navjot Sandhu went the era, and then came in Anwar versus Bashir. Unfortunately, the doctrine of prospective overruling was not applied by the Honorable Supreme Court. So really, we do not know what happened to the trials which took place from Navjot Sandhu to Anwar versus Bashir. You can understand. Because Anwar versus Bashir मध्ये Supreme Court said, 65B is not compulsory. त्यामुळे मधल्या काळामध्ये prosecutions अनेकदा 65B कडे म्हणावं तेवढं लक्ष दिलं नाही. Okay, and suddenly in Anwar versus Bashir, Supreme Court says, no, it is mandatory. So we are not aware what happens to the fate of those cases which were decided during this mid time, during this interregnum. Because the doctrine of prospective overruling can be applied to constitutional amendments, as we know in Golaknath. But let's not digress. That's a different thing. Please remember, Navjot Sandhu's laws was held to be bad and came in Anwar versus Bashir. There is third judgment, which is Shafi Muhammad case, which I am not discussing now. That I'll discuss when there is a right time to discuss that. Let us move ahead. What is after notwithstanding? Please go ahead. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act, comma, any information contained in an electronic record which is printed on a paper, stored, recorded, or copied in optical or magnetic media. Let us pause here. Friends, please read the section with me because the section is little technical. I want you all to read with me so we can understand it better. Any information contained in an electronic record. Always remember, any computer, any mobile, any electric device always accepts the information in binary format. What is a binary format? Binary format is a language of 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. It consists of only two things, 0 and 1. That's called binary. If I want to type my name Yuvraj on a screen, computer does not accept YUVRAJ. Computer understands the language of 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, whatever it may be. Okay, this is the binary language. And even the output, if computer wants to display Yuvraj on a display, it will show 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. It is the software and operating system which converts that binary into the readable language, which then you will see on a screen, Yuvraj. Okay, so this is the binary form always. And because I am telling you all, कारण आपल्याला नंतरच्या भागात थोडं टेक्निकल शिकायचं आहे. I am going to tell you about digital signature and hash. So I am just explaining the basic concepts. Any information contained in an electronic record which is printed on a paper. It can be printed on a paper like an email. Okay, you have an email, you print it, you produce it in the court of law. It's printed on a paper, nothing difficult to understand. Stored or recorded or copied in optical or magnetic media. What does it mean? It might be stored, copied, or recorded in an optical media. Optical media includes three things, basically: CD, DVD, or Blu-ray disc, which is now in vogue, which has much larger capacity than a DVD. CD, DVD, or Blu-ray disc is the optical media. What is a magnetic media? Magnetic media means the hard drive. If you go to purchase a computer, you always see yourself asking the salesman, what is the hard drive? What is the hard drive memory? Okay, and what is the RAM? RAM is random access memory. Okay, I'll give you an example. If I ask you what is the name of your sister, or what is the name of your mother, even if I woke you up in the night and I ask you the name, you can immediately tell me. Or if I ask you 70 years down the line, you can still remember it. But if I ask you what you had for your dinner day before yesterday, you would not be able to tell me that what you had for a dinner. Reason is simple. That information of what you had for your dinner was stored on your short-term memory, and what is the name of your mother has been stored on your long-term memory. In computer language, long-term memory is the hard drive memory. The short-term memory is a random access memory, what is RAM. The benefit of RAM is that when you use a computer, it makes it a quicker experience to use a computer or your mobile. So higher the RAM, quicker is the computer, quicker is the mobile, quicker is the instrument. Okay, let's not really again digress into technical. I just told you since I thought it's relevant now. So the information can be in any format, can be on a paper, can be on an optical media, can be on a magnetic media. Okay, produced by a computer. Very important. Let me tell you. Produced by a computer has two subcategories. What do I mean by that? Suppose if I want to prepare an appeal to be filed in the High Court, I am going to open my laptop, I am going to type out an appeal memo, I am going to print it. It is a document produced by a computer, right? Does it require 65B certificate? It does not. Okay, because the computer has not applied its mind to what I have written. Computer has not processed my writing, except forget about the Microsoft Word editing, formatting, change of font. They are not called accessing. They are not called processing. This is just the editing. So I don't require 65B. But suppose if I today use Excel sheet and I use the computer to make additions, subtractions, divisions, multiplications, I'm using computer as a processor. This is the information which is also produced by a computer, which requires 65B certificate. And friends, this has been a very good judgment of our Bombay High Court, where one of the parties said, you all know nowadays police station मध्ये pen आणि paper मध्ये FIR लिहून घेत नाही, they type it on a computer. So in one case the accused said this FIR has to have a 65B, it is printed from a computer. The High Court said, our High Court said, sorry, this is not information produced by a computer. This is the computer has been used only as a means to store the information. There is no processing. Okay, so please understand the connotations of the word produced by a computer. Let's move ahead. Okay, notwithstanding anything contained in this act, any information contained in an electronic record which is printed on a paper, stored, recorded, copied in optical or magnetic media produced by a computer shall be deemed to be a document, a deeming provision, if the conditions mentioned in this section are fulfilled. Now these conditions we will deal with in a later part. These conditions you will find in subsection 4. Okay, so the it shall be deemed to be a document if the conditions mentioned in this section are complied with. Please go ahead. Are satisfied in relation to the information and computer in question and shall be admissible in any proceedings. Please understand, let me pause here. Friends, the moment you comply with 65B, the information becomes admissible in court of law. The contents are proved, the truth of the contents is not proved. I will not detain you longer on this topic because I have given an extensive lecture on admissibility of documents, which you will find on my Facebook wall. There I have discussed at length what do I mean by admissibility, what do I mean by relevancy, what do I mean by probative value, and what do I mean by weight in evidence. So I won't detain you longer, but let me tell you just in brief. Please go back to 65A. 65A says contents of an electronic record may be proved in accordance with 65B. Please note the word contents can be proved. The truth is not proved. So when you comply with 65B, what you are essentially proving is the contents of a document and not the truth of the contents. And I'll give you an example which I had given in that lecture. What is the difference between admissibility and relevance? Suppose, friends, B is a wife in a litigation between A and B, and A is a husband. A's lawyer is cross-examining B, the lady who is standing in the witness box. A's lawyer asks her a question. It's a property related litigation. He asks her a question. Can you tell me what is a communication between you and your husband about this property on a particular date? Is she obliged to answer that? She is not, because it's, as we all know, privileged communication under section 120. Communication under section 122. But look, the question was relevant, but it is inadmissible because the lawyer is asking about a property. So it's a relevant question, but it is inadmissible. Come to next category of the questions. Second category of the question, the husband's lawyer is asking the wife, can you tell me that did you have a previous marriage and did you have a litigation with your ex-husband? The wife says, like wife may give an answer. Look, now the question is irrelevant because the lawyer is asking something about the previous marriage, which is not about the subject matter property. But is the question admissible? It is, because section 148 of the Evidence Act gives me a right to ask a question to test the veracity of the witness. Okay, so the question is irrelevant, but the question is admissible. And third category of the question, if the lawyer of the husband asks the lady, are you aware of any other property other than this subject matter which your husband owes? And the wife answers saying, yes, I know there is a property in Goa and one of the friend of my husband had told me during one dinner. Now look, answer is relevant, answer is admissible, but what is the probative value? What is the weight in evidence? Almost nil, because it's a hearsay evidence. It is not a direct evidence. It is the friend of the husband who has given this information. So in one case, we have three examples: admissibility, relevancy, and probative value are different concepts. And 65B only deals with admissibility. At this juncture, please take one citation where the Bombay High Court has succinctly and beautifully explained this whole concept. That's called Om Prakash Barlia's judgment. If you wish, you can please have a look at it. I'll give the citations. It's AR 1983 Bombay 1. Okay. There the Bombay High Court had said that when you say the contents are proved, it does not mean the truth of the contents are proved. I'll again give you one example and then we will move ahead. Suppose A addresses email to B. I'm talking of an email in electronic record and calls B an idiot person. B produces that email in a suit for defamation against A and produces 65B certificate along with that. The court now marks that email as an exhibit in the evidence. That proves only two things. Exhibiting proves only two things. That A indeed had sent that email to B, 1, and A indeed called B an idiot person, 2. 65B does not prove that B is indeed an idiot person. Okay, so the truth of the email is not proved. Please understand always this scenario. Here, if you wish to have two more judgments, and then I'll explain the core of those two judgments. Kundan Singh versus State, it's 2015 SCC online, 2015 SCC online, Delhi 13647. Nidhi Kakkar versus Manish Kakkar, 2011 SCC online, Punjab and Haryana 2599. Don't worry if you can't write it down right now. I'll share the citations later. Here the courts have devised a very beautiful way of dealing with the electronic evidence. The High Court says there are 3 stages through which electronic evidence passes. Okay. The first stage is section 136. Second stage is 65B. And third stage is 22A of the Evidence Act. Let me explain. Section 136 of the Evidence Act says that whenever a document is tendered into evidence, when it is sought to be admitted into evidence, the court has to first satisfy about its relevancy. म्हणजे हा डॉक्युमेंट प्रूव्ह करून त्याचा रिलेव्हन्स काय आहे, the court has a right to ask that well before admitting that evidence. That is 136. Okay, so relevancy, admissibility presupposes relevancy. That is, so relevancy test has to be passed. Then comes 65B, admissibility test. If you comply with 65B, you get over the admissibility. And third is the stage of section 22A of the Evidence Act. If you have with you right now, you can open, have a look. It says that whenever genuineness of an electronic record is in question, the parties can lead oral evidence. Something very important. Genuineness of the electronic record is in question. You can lead oral evidence to disprove or to impeach the genuineness of an electronic record. So the electronic record to be successfully used has to pass 3 stages: the relevancy under 136, 65B admissibility, and 22A the genuineness. Okay, so these 3 filters, these 3 musters the electronic record has to pass. If you wish, have one more judgment. Jaimin Jewelry versus State of Maharashtra, 2017, 3rd volume, Maharashtra Law Journal 691. And if you wish, I'll read from the judgment of only 3 lines. It has to be borne in mind that section 65B only relates to admissibility of the electronic record. There is no presumption regarding the genuineness of the electronic record. It is necessary for the parties and the court to prove independently the correctness and the genuineness of the electronic record. So please come out of a mindset. We lawyers and even the judges need to come out of this mindset that once the 65B is there, done is the task, over is the game. Please let us move. No, it's only a threshold. Now let us move. Let us look at the conditions for admissibility. You all remember we just spoke that the electronic record has to satisfy the conditions mentioned in this section. Which are those conditions? Let us look at those conditions. You will have that in the subsection 2. Okay. There are conditions are in 2 sections, subsection 2 and subsection 4. Let us now deal with the conditions mentioned in subsection 2. Let us read the first one. A. The computer output or electronic evidence was produced during the period when the computer was used regularly, comma, to store or process the information for the purposes of any activities regularly carried on over that period, comma, by the person having lawful control over the use of the computer. Sounds little technical. Let me simplify. This condition has in itself three subconditions. What are they? The first, the output is produced by a computer during the period when the computer used regularly. In short, the computer must be used regularly is the first condition. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to simplify it. Assume for a moment, एका सरकारी अधिकाऱ्यासाठी एका शॉपिंग मॉल मध्ये करप्शन साठी एक ट्रॅप लावलाय. The police want to catch the government servant red-handed while accepting a bribe in a shopping mall, and they want to use a CCTV to catch that moment of acceptance of a bribe. Okay, clear? So CCTV is going to be a crucial piece of evidence to show that he was caught red-handed. Shopping mall, CCTV, public servant, and bribe. Okay. Now, the first condition. I'll explain the conditions in the context of this example, so it is easier for you. One, computer must be used regularly. What does it mean? The CCTV must be used regularly to capture the footage. One. Okay, fun. Second condition. Regular use should be for the purposes of activities which are regularly carried on over that period. What does it mean? It means the regular use of the computer must be for the activities which are regularly carried on. म्हणजे तो CCTV हा फक्त CCTV ची जी हार्ड ड्राइव्ह आहे, where the CCTV footage is going to be captured, that has to be used regularly for storing the CCTV footage only. The hard drive shouldn't be used for any other purpose. Okay. And thirdly, it must be used by the person who is having a lawful control over that device. CCTV. It might be a owner of a mall, it might be an IT department.
No voice, please.
Must be under control of whom? It must be under control of the administrator, the IT administrator. आता 3 examples बघूया, and then we will see whether the conditions are satisfied. Assume for a moment, ज्या दिवशी दुपारी तो पब्लिक सर्वंट ब्राइब घेण्यासाठी त्या मॉल मध्ये येणार आहे, the day on which he is supposed to come there, that morning the police come and installs the CCTV. Only that morning they come. Can you say that the device was used regularly, store and process the information? Maybe not. Okay. Or suppose that CCTV was out of operation till that very morning and it became operational that very morning. Can you say the device was being operated and used regularly? Maybe not. Take a second. So we are done with the first condition, first sub conditions. It is not complied. Come to second condition. Assume for a moment that the device which these guys are using, the CCTV device, let us take the second one. Yes. They do not have the hard drive to capture the CCTV footage. त्यांची memory कमी असेल or maybe for some other reason. So they take the billing desk. You have in the shopping mall a billing counter, right? They use the hard drive from a billing desk and inserts that into a CCTV DVR where it is stored. Can you say that it was regularly, that hard drive was regularly used to capture only CCTV footage? No. It was used regularly for capturing the billing data. It was not used regularly for CCTV footage. You just fetched it to record it right now because you needed it. So we are also not complying with the second condition. Take a third condition. The CCTV is under the lawful use of an administrator. Assume a scenario where police do the ethical hacking. You all are aware of ethical hacking. Ethical hacking means the hacking done for the good purposes. Hacking done for uncovering or discovering an offense. That is ethical hacking. Suppose police do not have an authority or a warrant or any lawful authorization to direct the mall owner to submit the CCTV or to capture that event. They ethically hack into the device. Do you call it a device under the lawful control? You do not. So please understand the scenario. We have in this case, am I audible to all? Because I just can read a message that not audible. I hope I am audible. You have in a case 3 scenarios where the conditions mentioned in subsection 1 A are not being complied with. Therefore, whenever you get a 65B certificate, please do not apply it. Please do not take it on its face value. Try to analyze it. whether this CCTV was used regularly. Was it operational all the time? Was it under the control of the lawful authority? Please don't accept 65B blindly. These are the very basic things that you have to understand. Now let us go to second condition, condition number 2. Okay. During the said period, condition number B I am talking of. During the said period, information of the kind contained in the electronic record was regularly fed into the computer in the ordinary course of the said activities. Let me simplify. All it means is this, that information must have been supplied into the computer regularly. In short, regular supply of information, regular feeding of information is important. I'll tell you how absurd this condition is and how it is not applicable. Suppose, I'll give you an example. What do they mean by this? समजा मला एखाद्या केस मध्ये माझं बिलिंग रेकॉर्ड प्रूव्ह करायचंय. टेक अ सेम केस ऑफ अ शॉपिंग मॉल. आय वॉन्ट टू प्रूव्ह माय बिलिंग रेकॉर्ड. What do? I produce the printouts of the bill and the court takes them into account because they are regularly fed. Like the bill of January is done in January, billing of Feb is done on Feb, billing of June is done in June. So there is a regularity. So the court takes into account, no difficulty. Assume a scenario where there is a virus attack on my computer and I go to the court, maybe under criminal law or under section 43 of the IT Act, where I can seek compensation for hacking or loss caused due to hacking. माझ्या कॉम्प्युटरवर जर व्हायरस अटॅक झाला असेल, and if there is a virus downloaded on my system or any malware like a virus, tell me friends, can I call this virus something which was regularly fed into my computer? Of course not. Virus is not something that is regularly fed into my system. So, or I'll give you one interesting example from US. This case happened. If any one of you wish to read, it's Commonwealth versus Klinghoffer US case. या केस मध्ये झालं असं होतं, you all know the breath analyzer thing. If you're drunk and driving, the police will come and will ask you to blow into a device and which will tell you the alcohol level in your blood. In this case, a person was caught for rash driving and causing a death of a person. The question was whether he was under influence of alcohol. A breath analyzer test was taken. Similar certificate like 65B was submitted because breath analyzer is an electronic device. The accused in that case said, I have a problem with the software and the way the data is fed into breath analyzer. It is my doubt that there is some mistake with the software, and he tried to prove that. The court directed an investigation into it, and to their surprise, they found that that breath analyzer software was a faulty one. After 4 readings of alcohol, the 5th reading was an erroneous reading. It was coming on a higher side. So if the person is drunk below the level, still the 5th reading was showing it above the level. And this person was the 5th reading on that day. And that person was acquitted because of this serious anomaly. Because the date, and here we get a very important concept. Please note down the concept. It's called as garbage in, garbage out. If you are putting in the garbage, what will come out is the garbage. So mere regularity of the feeding is not important. What you have to see is that whether the data that is fed is correct. Merely being regular will not solve your purpose. To put it in Marathi, तर आम्ही तुम्ही कचरा टाकला तर कचराच बाहेर येणार आहे. तो कचरा मी रेग्युलरली टाकला म्हणून सोनं बाहेर येणार नाहीये. इट्स व्हेरी इझी टू अंडरस्टँड. सो गार्बेज इन, गार्बेज आउट. So regularity of feeding is a condition that has been mentioned by our legislature in clause B. Is a condition that does not really appeal to the logic. If you want to know more about it, please look at Rule 901 of Federal Rules of Evidence in the US law. Rule 901. There you will have what really you require to lay a reliability foundation for an electronic evidence. Regularity of input cannot be a ground. Okay. अगदी उदाहरण द्यायचं झालं तर तुम्ही वजनाच्या काट्यावर जर उभारलात आणि सुरुवातीचा काटा 2 किलोने जर जास्त असेल, इफ इट इज नॉट सेट ऑन अ 0, तर तुमचं वजन 75 असेल तर इट विल शो 77 बिकॉज द इनपुट इज इनकरेक्ट, आउटपुट इज बाउंड टू बी इनकरेक्ट. So whenever you are dealing with an electronic evidence, always have an eye for not only regularity of the feeding but correctness. correctness of the feeding. Okay, please remember this. Let us move ahead. Third condition, condition number C. Throughout the material part of the set period, the computer was operating properly. Simple presumption, or if it was not operating properly, it is not enough to affect the correctness or accuracy. What do I mean by that? मी तुम्हाला example देतो. Let us take the same example. A murder takes place in a mall or in a hotel at 5:30 p.m. Prosecution submits CCTV footage which shows the accused going into the room of the deceased at 5 o'clock. 5 वाजता तुमचा client हा room मध्ये गेलाय असं CCTV footage दाखवतं. So the prosecution argues that look, this was the man who was last seen with the deceased who went into the room. So he must be a culprit, a circumstantial evidence case. Now, if you ask for a footage from 5 to 5:30, because 5:30 is the time when the murder takes place, the prosecution must give you that. And I'll tell you under what provision, under what case law the prosecution has to do that. Prosecution must give the entire copy of the footage. If the prosecution says, sorry, CCTV was not working, there was some problem from 5 to 5:30 or from 5:15 to 5:30, out goes the electronic evidence. It can't be relied upon. Because of this clause, computer was not operating properly. It might be operating properly at 5 o'clock, doesn't matter. 5 ते 5:30 च्या काळात जर असं दाखवता आलं असतं की between 5 to 5:30 my client came out of the room, then it was clearly an exculpatory evidence for my client. It could have been. But since you are not giving me the footage, I'm completely handicapped. Okay? Because look at the second part. If not, then in respect of any period in which it was not operating properly or was out of operation during that part of the period, was not such to affect the electronic record. So if it is not functional, if it is non-functional, it must be of that gravity to affect the electronic record. Here the CCTV not functioning from 5 to 5:30 is certainly not operating. Okay? तर सकाळी 11 ते 11:30 जर तो ऑपरेशन मध्ये नसता, doesn't matter. Okay? But from 5 to 5:30 it must be in operation. And the last one, the information contained in the electronic record or derived from the information is derived from the information fed into the computer in the ordinary course of the activities. Let me tell you frankly, this is literally reproduction of clause B, which we just dealt. Regularity of feeding, garbage in, garbage out. There are two subtle differences between B and D, which I will not really bother you about because that will really digress and we have a lot to cover. Take it that B is as good as D, except few here and there. Completely ignore section 3 that you can read for yourself. Subsection 3 is only an explanatory section. Subsection. Come to 65B4, the most crucial section, and thereafter we will move to the technical aspect of it. 65B4 talks of famous certificate. 65B4 certificate. Whenever you are giving an evidence into the court of law, the court insists for the certificate, and this is the section. Let us read that. In any proceedings where it is desired to give a statement in evidence, by virtue of this section, a certificate doing any of the following, please note the word and underline any of the following. The certificate need not contain all the conditions. It can contain any of the conditions, whichever are applicable in your case. Okay? There is some problem with this proposition because let me tell you very frankly, in Anwar versus Bashir, the Honorable Supreme Court had said that 65B4 certificate has to deal with all the conditions. Let us wait for the day when the Honorable Supreme Court revisits this proposition and clarify it can be any of the conditions, because you can't comply with all the conditions. As I told you, in case of a virus, do I say that virus was regularly fed into my system? I can't say that. It has to deal with only conditions which are applicable in my case. Let us look at those conditions which the certificate has to follow. 1. Certificate has to identify the electronic record containing the statement and describing the manner in which it was produced. So the certificate has to identify the electronic record. What do I mean by that? Suppose मी एखादा WhatsApp कोर्टामध्ये प्रूव्ह करतोय, the certificate has to say that look, this is a WhatsApp of this number received from this number. This is my SIM card identification. This is the IMEI number. So it has to identify the electronic record and the manner in which it was produced. म्हणजे काय मी तुम्हाला सेकंड कंडिशनच्या वेळी सांगेन. लेट अस गो अहेड अँड लुक ॲट द सेकंड कंडिशन अँड देन आय विल कम बॅक अगेन. Giving particulars of device involved in the production of the electronic record. Please understand, device involved in the production of an electronic record. It does not mean only one device. I'll give you an example. Let's go back to the example of CCTV in a shopping mall. CCTV न एखादं फुटेज कॅप्चर केलं, ते कॅप्चर केलेलं फुटेज DVR मध्ये रेकॉर्ड झालं. DVR इज अ स्टोरेज फॉर CCTV. ते तिथलं फुटेज पोलिसांनी त्यांच्या ताब्यामध्ये घेतलं. They took it into the custody. They gave it to a forensic lab for analysis. Forensic lab analyzed that software, edited that software, clarified that footage, zoomed into an accused person, gave it back to police. Police gives this to PP. PP produces that in the court of law. We just discussed, friends, a very important concept called as a chain of custody. Chain of custody includes principally 4 stages: seizure, okay, analysis, seizure, acquisition, analysis, and presentation. It means to seize the information from mall, okay. Then acquisition means actually retrieving the information, analysis in a forensic lab, and presenting it in the court of law. This is called a chain of custody. Please understand, there are multiple devices involved in this process of chain of custody. What generally you will see in the court of law is that only the device which is last 65B certificate is given of only that device. Suppose CCTV example again. How many devices are involved in the CCTV footage? The DVR, the CCTV camera 1, DVR 2nd, the computer of a forensic analyst 3rd, the computer of a PP if he wants to make a copy out of it 4. So there are multiple devices. This section mandates that you must give particulars of devices involved in the production. It is not one. There are multiple devices. तुमच्या मोबाईल मधला WhatsApp तुम्हाला कोर्टात हजर करायचा आहे. So you have a mobile. First, from that mobile, you are transferring it to something on your computer. Second device, from computer, you are writing that data to a CD. Third device, that's third process. And suppose if you are using that CD to make multiple copies, then there are multiple devices. Maybe with the use of a laptop, if you are doing it, you must give details of all these devices when you are going for 65B4 certificate. And here comes another important concept, which is called as a contemporaneous certification. Please note this concept. We are not really aware of this. Contemporaneous certification means a certificate must be obtained at that particular time and by that authority. I'll explain. CCTV footage जेव्हा पोलीस ताब्यामध्ये घेतात तेव्हा CCTV footage बद्दल authority कोण आहे? The owner of a mall. He is the authority who has the CCTV footage. So you must obtain the certificate from the owner of a mall. That is contemporaneous certificate. When the matter goes to forensic lab, who is the authority? The scientist or the analyst. He is the man who is in the control of the system. Second certificate you must obtain when that matter leaves the lab. Second certificate. Third certificate, suppose the public prosecutor obtains or makes a copy in his own office. The public prosecutor is the man in charge of that system. The third certificate. So please come out of a misunderstanding that 65B is only one certificate. There can be multiple certificates. They have to be contemporaneous. Suppose if CCTV is done in 2013, you can't obtain that certificate in their 2015. Please take the citation. This is what the High Court says. Please take the citation. That's Vaidyanath versus State of Maharashtra, 2019, SCC Online, Bombay, 1357. Vaidyanath versus State of Maharashtra. This case talks of contemporaneous certification 1. It also talks of how to ideally collect the CCTV footage, or for that matter, any electronic evidence. Second citation for contemporaneous certification, you can take a note of it. Sanju versus State of MP, 2019, SCC Online, Madhya Pradesh High Court, 2070. Sanju versus State of MP, where the court had said that electronic evidence is not admissible unless it is accompanied by a contemporaneous certificate, a certificate obtained at the same time. Okay. In fact, there is another judgment of Kamal Patel versus Ramkishore Dogne. You can have it 2016 first volume, Madhya Pradesh Law Journal 528. In this case, the CD was prepared in their 2013 and certificate was prepared in their 2015. There was a gap of 2 years. The High Court said, sorry, this certificate cannot be accepted. The certificate should have been obtained contemporaneously at the same time. Okay. So we are done with this. Last but not the least, a third is, of course, as I told you, certificate must deal with the matters which are mentioned in subsection 2. Okay, we just discussed which are the conditions in subsection 2: regularity of the information, computer operating properly. So certificate should deal with applicable conditions, not all of them. In my submission, it can't deal with one of them. It can deal with only relevant. Okay, as the case may be. Fourth, certificate must be signed by a person occupying a responsible official position. Okay, let me give you an example. Suppose a CCTV footage CD is signed by the forensic laboratory expert. Yes, this is the CCTV footage. It looks to be the correct one and the contents are correct. Is this 65B admissible? No, because is the forensic expert a person in lawful control over the CCTV? No, it's the mall owner who controls the CCTV. Forensic analyst can give the certificate only for something that happened within the 4 corners of his lab. He can't vouch for the correctness of the CCTV footage. Likewise, a PP can't vouch for the correctness of what happens in a forensic lab. So these words assume a great significance. And now let me discuss the third case which left out, Shafi Mohammad's case. In Shafi Mohammed, Supreme Court says that you do not require to give a certificate for an electronic data which is not under your control. Generally, Shafi Mohammed is misunderstood and misinterpreted to mean that the Supreme Court has lowered down the rigor of Anwar versus Bashir. No, 65 is absolutely mandatory. All the Supreme Court has said is this: suppose if I am a husband and in a suppose I want to produce a electronic record of from a mobile of my wife, I am not the person in charge of my wife's mobile, or a forensic expert is not in charge of what the CCTV captures. So in such cases 65B4 cannot be insisted. This is what the Supreme Court says. For 65B4 to be signed, the person must be the lawful authority. Okay, he can't be stranger to the electronic record. So Shafi Mohammed creates an exception. It creates a leeway for an electronic record which is being produced by a person under whom the electronic record is not under the lawful custody. Okay, this is what 65B4 tells us. You can have these citations. Brajesh Tiwari versus State of MP 2016, SCC Online MP 8424. In this case, the nodal CDR, we all are aware, CDR, the call details record. In this case, the cyber forensic officer signed on a CDR certificate. The High Court said, sorry, you can't sign on that. The cellular office nodal officer has to sign on 65B4. You can't sign on that. This is what the judgment says. Maharashtra case, you can have the same case, Jaimin Jewelry, which I just told you. Here also the person who is not in charge gave the certificate. Okay. And another interesting case is Shraddha Shipping Cooperative Private Limited. This is 2014 SCC Online Bombay 2273. In this case, something very interesting happened. A person gave the certificate who was IT in charge, okay, who was an independent consultant but an IT in charge. In the cross-examination, it's so revealed that this person did not have an access to the electronic record. Though he was in charge, the admin access was with someone else. So the High Court said, sorry, we can't accept the 65B4 certificate which is signed by you because you do not know the password. You do not have an access to the system. You do not know about feeding in a system. So you are not the person who is qualified to sign a certificate. So whenever you are putting in 65B4 certificate, make sure that it is being signed by a person who has an access to the system, who has an administrator, the fullest access to the system, who knows about the password, who knows about the data, who knows about the inputs and outputs. Okay, so this is the last one. And the last one, it ends with the shall be evidence of any matter stated in the certificate. So if you do all this, it will be evidence of the matter which is stated in the certificate. Remember, this is not a conclusive proof. Section 4 of the Evidence Act tells me what is a conclusive proof. If you can't rebut something, it is called as a conclusive proof. You don't have an option even to rebut it. 65B4 is not a gospel truth. You can certainly impeach it by hair splitting analysis that we just did. You can lead oral evidence. You can call in the expert under section 45A. Okay. Now, generally question is asked to me, what is the format of 65B4 certificate? Let me tell you, you can't have a fixed format for 65B4. You can't have it copy paste format. It will go against the very spirit of 65B4. Generally, people cite a case of Arc Shipping Corporation. If you wish to have a look at it, I can give you a citation. Arc Shipping Cooperative Limited versus CRT Ship Management. It's 2007, 6th volume, Bombay Case Reporter 311. In this case, allegedly a certificate has been given by the Honorable High Court. It is not a certificate of a High Court. High Court has merely reiterated the certificate given by a party in that case. It is not the High Court's official declaration and pronouncement of a certificate. It is something given by the party in that case. In every case, it will change. It will depend on the circumstances. What information have you got? Who is the signatory? Okay. So there is no fixed format. You can have a look at this judgment if you wish to have a general outline of whole of this. Second, we will just deal with, there is a question that citations, I'll share the citations, don't worry. I just don't want to slow down because the more I tell you the citation, more it breaks the link. Next question, inevitably, which is asked is, what is a stage for giving the 65B certificate? Please take the citation, I'll tell you the law. State of Karnataka versus M.R. Hiremat, 2019, 7th volume, SCC 515. Here the Supreme Court says that you don't need to give 65B certificate when you are filing the evidence. Like along with the charge sheet in a criminal case, or in a civil case when you are filing it along with the plaint or documents. Don't give it. 65B is required when you are admitting that evidence into the record. Okay, when you are asking that evidence to be exhibited, that time you have to give the 65B certificate. That is a stage of Order 13 Rule 4 in a CPC. When you get an evidence admitted into the record, when you get a nishan, what we call in Marathi, or exhibiting a document, that time you give 65B certificate. It is not necessary at an earlier stage. In fact, even if you don't give it at that stage, it is a curable defect. Okay. It can be given subsequently. That judgment is Nyati Builders versus Rajat Dinesh Chauhan. Okay, that's 2015 SCC online, Bombay 7578, where the High Court has, our High Court has said that it is a curable defect. It can be given subsequently. But now a word of caution. If you look at a judgment of Hemant Rasiklal Ghia, it is a full bench judgment of our Honorable High Court. I'm going little fast on this because I have at length discussed all these judgments in my earlier webinar, which is on my Facebook wall. You can all have a look at that. The full bench had said, and in fact, the judgment of Sonu versus State of Haryana Supreme Court had said that once electronic evidence is marked as an exhibit, even if it is so marked without 65B certificate, a party cannot challenge, saying that no, there is no 65B certificate. How did you admit that? Sorry, gone is the bus. You had a chance. You did not object. Once it is exhibited, it can't be reopened in an appeal. Okay, in one of the appeals that I was arguing before High Court, a question was that whether 65B was mandatory, was it filed? And with this judgment of the Supreme Court, I argued that it, whatever may be the position, since the no objection was taken and since the email was marked into evidence, you cannot raise an objection now. So the defendants or the opponents must remember that if you want to challenge the lack of 65B certificate, challenge it before it is marked into evidence. Once it is marked into evidence, gone is the chance, window is closed. Okay, that's Sonu versus State of Haryana is 2017 2017, 8th volume, Supreme Court cases 570. Okay. In fact, many a times you would understand that if you want to confront a witness with a document to contradict him under section 145, you must have 65B ready. Suppose if I want to contradict a witness, okay, suppose in the same case, A calling B an idiot person, I want to contradict A with an email wherein A is calling B an intelligent person. I want to contradict him with this email. I must have 65B certificate ready. This judgment is X versus State of Maharashtra, is 2020 judgment, SCC Online Bombay 143, X versus State of Maharashtra, where the High Court has gone to a length of saying that if you want to even contradict a witness with electronic evidence, you must cross the threshold of 65B4. Okay. I have said this in that lecture. Let me just tell you for those who haven't heard that. In family court, there is a judgment, and there is also section 14, which say who can give this certificate? The person who is in charge of that system has to give the certificate, that we discussed when we discussed it. And I'll take all the question and answers at the end, don't worry. 65B applicability is not hard and fast in family court proceedings. Always remember. That's a judgment if you wish to have. Pramod versus Launa. It's 2000 AIR 2019, Kerala High Court, page number 85. Okay, where the High Court has said, referring to section 14, that in family court proceedings, hard and fast application of Evidence Act is not contemplated. There is some leeway to the family court. So 65B, you can't really hard and fast press for that. Okay, so but it's always a word of caution and word of advice that 65B is must. Parties must ensure that they are giving 65B certificate whenever possible. So yes, I'll be sharing the judgments, don't worry. Section 14 we just had. Even in the Arbitration Act, 65B, you can't really insist for it because arbitrator can fix his own rules. Okay, we all know that. Even under Motor Vehicles Act, 65B has been held to be compulsory. Just let me tell you. Suppose if the insurance company is relying on a computerized policy, insurance company must produce it along with 65B. This is the law of the land, or law of, at least in Maharashtra, which is take a judgment of United India Insurance. This is Sunita Gujar. It's 2017, first volume, Maharashtra Law Journal 329. Okay, that insurance company must produce 65B if it is producing computerized policy. CCTV printouts, let me just tell you here, CCTV printouts don't produce CCTV printouts. Always produce CCTV CD or a hard drive or whatever in a pen drive. CCTV printouts, you will see snapshots, they are not admissible. The judgment of the Bombay High Court, Naresh Bhandge judgment, it's 2018. I'll give the citations, don't worry. If you wish, if you are really curious, you can have a look at a judgment of Shubhendu Nath. It's a Calcutta High Court judgment where a very detailed guidelines are given about forensic investigation, how the forensic investigation has to be conducted. Okay. Now let me address you in last 15 minutes, how to obtain this copy or electronic evidence. Because you might ask me a question, how do I really analyze? How do I really go into the electronic evidence which prosecution is relying, which plaintiff is relying? I don't have an access to that. Okay. Please take a note of a judgment, and please take a note of it right now if you wish to. That judgment is Gopala Krishnan versus State of Kerala. It's 2019 judgment, Supreme Court, online. Is Supreme Court 1532, P. Gopala Krishnan versus State of Kerala. The Supreme Court has given a very valuable right, which anyways, in fact, section 207 of the CRPC gave me, order 11 of CPC gave me, but Supreme Court now in a very well crafted judgment gives it. What is that right? A right to obtain mirror image of the CD produced by the other side, or a hard drive, or any electronic evidence. What is mirror image? Mirror image means a bit by bit copy of, suppose if CCTV, let us take the same example, shopping mall ka CCTV footage, hard drive. The prosecution cannot say to you that I'll give you only from 5 to 5:30 footage. Supreme Court says you must give him the mirror image, a bit by bit copy, clone copy, because if you get that, you can engage your own private forensic investigator, okay, and you can tell the court that, look, this is the problem with this evidence looks to be tampered, this looks to be compromised. How else otherwise would you do it unless you get the copy of it? Okay, so and if you see, and let me tell you very frankly, document, the definition document has been amended in the year 2000. Document means the electronic record, correct? There is a judgment of Dharambir, if you wish to have it, Dharambir versus CBI, where the High Court, Delhi High Court, Justice Muralidhar has said that every hard drive is a document, every CD is a document if anything is written on that. Okay, so even if there is one bit of information on that, it is a document, correct? If it is a document, why can't I go under order 11 to seek its discovery, to seek its inspection, to seek its production? Of course, if it is a document, treat it as a document. Give me the copy of the soft copy of the email. Give me the email along with the header. Give me the CD. Give me the mirror image of the hard drive. You can't just give what suits you. You have to give. There has to be a fair disclosure. Okay. So the prosecution or the proponent of an electronic evidence is under an obligation to give the mirror image to the other side. So other side can do its own forensic analysis and come out with the impeaching evidence. And then you have 45A. You can call your own expert, and then you can do that. Now there is another. See, this we really have a very short time to discuss 45A, 79A, but just tell you 45 is an expert evidence. You can get your own expert to depose. There is a problem that they are not notified under 79A, but they can always come and depose. There are judgments to that effect. Now let me tell you what happens to the evidence which is obtained illegally. This is the last chapter, and then we will go for 10 minutes to the forensic part of this. What happens to the evidence which is obtained illegally? What do I mean by that? If suppose in a dispute between husband and wife, okay, husband illegally accesses the account of a wife, Facebook account or her WhatsApp, takes the print and produces that in the court of law. Or employer accesses the account of an employee, produces that in the court of law. This is illegally obtained evidence. Okay. In US, there is a doctrine called as a fruits of poisonous tree. Fruits of poisonous tree in Marathi means Vishari Vrakshachi Phalo, he Visharis astat. So if your means of getting evidence is illegal, the evidence is tainted with illegality. You can't use that in the court of law. Okay, because the 4th Amendment in US Constitution guarantees your right against the illegal search and seizures. But this doctrine of fruits of poisonous tree is not applicable in India. Okay, those of you who are interested, please have a look at 194th report of Law Commission. It is exclusively for illegally obtained evidence. There was a suggestion that we should have a separate section in the Evidence Act to deal with the illegally obtained evidence. Unfortunately, that was not done. But anyways, it's 94th report of Law Commission of India. If you are really interested, please have a look at it. 2 judgments. Anurima versus Sunil Mehta, AIR 2016, Madhya Pradesh 112. Bharti Tamang versus Union of India 2013-15, Supreme Court cases 578. Supreme Court says that it doesn't matter whether you obtain the evidence legally or illegally, as long as it is relevant, it is admissible. Unless, of course, there are certain parameters. It's not that everything is white and black. Please look at the judgment. Please visit the judgments. We don't have enough time to discuss at length the judgments. The law of the land seems to be you can use the illegally obtained evidence. But those of you who are interested, please look at one judgment of Vishal Kaushik versus Family Court. This is the Rajasthan High Court judgment. AIR 2015, Rajasthan High Court 146. Here, surprisingly, the Rajasthan High Court had said that if the husband illegally obtains the wife's evidence or the evidence from the wife illegally, that I will not read into the evidence, and High Court discards that evidence. Okay, so just out of curiosity, in my respectful submission, it might be a per incurium judgment. It has, the law has to be revisited, but the Supreme Court cases are very clear. Maybe in income tax, maybe in taxation cases, illegally obtained evidence is admissible. The fruits of poisonous tree doctrine doesn't apply. Now, let me in short tell you about 2 important things, and then we will end the webinar. Hash and digital signature. Hashing is very important, friends. H-A-S-H. What is hashing? Hashing is the singularly most important tool used in authenticating the electronic evidence. Okay. Hashing is only this. I'll give you an example. I do not have the slides to show you, so I'm trying to use some props to explain it to you. This is the contract. Okay. A wants to send this contract to B. B wants to send it to C. C wants to send it to D, and D wants to send it to E. So A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. Contract created by A. Okay. Hash is a mathematical algorithm which, if you apply to this contract, it will give you 2-line summary of this contract, 2-line message. All this contract will be encapsulated in these 2 lines. This is called as a hash digest. Okay. Importance of this is that the moment if I change even 1 comma in this entire contract, this hash message will completely change. This will completely undergo change. So if now A sends this to B along with hash message, B sends it to C, C sends it to D. Now E, the last person in the line with whom the buck stops, wants to verify that whether this is the same contract which A gave to all. What he has to do is only this, that A will calculate the hash. He will get his own hash. He will compare this hash with the hash given by A. If they both match, the message is not compromised. Okay, so hash is nothing but, and those of you, my friends who are interested to try their hands with hash, it's very interesting. Please visit a website www.md5file.com. M for Mumbai, D for Delhi, file file.com stroke calculator. Go to this website. Okay, create a page, create a small Word file on your desktop. Okay, write your name into it, save that Word file, open this website www.md5file.com stroke calculator. On that window, just drag this file there or upload this file of your name. You will get hash results. They are MD5, SHA1, SHA2. I will not tell you much about this. There are 3 formats. There are multiple formats. MD5 is not very preferred format. Secure hash algorithm, SHA1, is widely used. Don't go into all the technicalities. All they do is to give you this hash result. Okay. Now change something in your Word file. Again, upload that document. You will see the entire hash value will undergo change. A single comma. Okay. Single comma in the entire, it might be a crores of document. You change a single comma, the hash digest will undergo change. This hash need not be applied only to document. It can be applied to documents. Hash can be applied to CDs. It can be applied to hard drives. Okay. So the prosecution uses it. I'll tell you how they use it. Suppose a CCTV footage is obtained in a mall. Police will apply the hash and they will preserve that hash. Okay. It goes to forensic lab. Forensic lab will calculate the hash. They will compare the hash, their own hash with the police hash, to see whether the police have tampered with it. Okay. When the forensic lab does its job, when the CCTV footage leaves the lab and goes to public prosecutor will again calculate the hash to make sure that the forensic lab has not tampered with the CCTV footage. So this hash is a guarantee of the fact that the evidence is not tampered with. This is called as a hash digest. 65B certificate should ideally contain the hash as well, ideally. Now let me in brief tell you about digital signature. Friends, digital signature is considered to be a complicated concept, but I am going to explain it to you in the simplest language is possible. Digital signature, friends, are issued under section 35 of the IT Act. Digital signature is important for you all because if you have heard the lecture of His Lordship Justice Chandrachud, he says now that there are the lawyers have to have use the digital signatures to log in into the computer, the e-portal of the courtrooms. And Lordship also added that this is one of the authenticating feature. So we all have to use the electronic signatures sooner or later. So whenever you apply for a digital signature, you are given 2 keys. Okay, a private key and a public key. You are given a set of a key. This is called as a asymmetric key cryptography. You might have heard the word cryptography. This is it. I'm going to explain you in 5 minutes. Please focus on this. So when you apply for a digital signature, you are given the pair of keys, a private key and a public key. This private key is very important. This I have to always keep secure. Okay. Now these are not physical keys. Always remember, these are in the terms of the program, but they are called keys. I'm just trying to use props. This private key I must always preserve with utmost caution. Okay, that is a statutory obligation under section 42 of the IT Act. Whatever I lock with my private key can be unlocked with the public key. Whatever I lock with public key, I can unlock with the private key. Very simple. Lock with private, unlock with public, lock with public, unlock with private. Okay. Now digital signature. I want to send this contract to Mr. B. Okay. What I do, I calculate the hash digest. Okay. Maybe going to that website, I calculate the hash digest. So I have the hash. What I do, I encrypt this hash with my private key. Okay. So this hash message is encrypted now. Okay. And now I send this to B. What I send the original contract. I send the hash encrypted with private key. And I also send the public key. Okay. Because I am the custodian of private key as well as the public key. So what I do, I take the contract, I calculate the hash, I encrypt the hash with the private key. So it is now encrypted hash message, and I send the public key. So I send three things: the contract, encrypted hash, and the public key. Okay. This is digital signature. B receives it. Now B wants to be sure as to two things: whether it is A who has sent it, one, and whether this contract is tampered in between. Okay. What B will do? B will open the document. He will have this contract. Fine. He will calculate hash of this. Independently, he will calculate hash of this. Okay. Then he will open the encrypted hash which A had sent. He will decrypt that with the public key which also A had sent to him. Okay. So now this encrypted becomes decrypted. So he will get another hash value. He will compare this hash along with the hash that he independently calculated. So if these two hash values match, it means two things: that the electronic record is not tampered, correct? Otherwise the hash values will undergo change, even if one comma is changed. And secondly, it is only A who has sent it, because only A has the private key, correct? No one else has it. So this is called as an authentication. In practical scenario, you don't need to do all this. PDF or any file will automatically do it for you. They will calculate the hash, they will decrypt the hash message, they will compare it, and they will authenticate. This was just to tell you the background, what happens in the background. This is what happens in the background. There are three classes of digital signatures: class 1, class 2, class 3. Class 1 is not very secure. You can log in with your email and you can get it. Class 2 is something very crucial that you use for filing your returns and all that. Class 3 is most secure, that you use for participating in online auctions. Okay. So these are three. They are issued by certifying authorities like e-Mudra, that you can get by complying with some formalities. There is an authority supervising all this. Okay. They are called controller of certifying authorities, but that's a different topic. So remember, this is what is called as an asymmetric key cryptography. This is called as a digital signature, and this is called as a public key infrastructure. Okay. I'm asked to repeat a website that I mentioned. That website was about hash value. That was www.md5 Mumbai Delhi, M for Mumbai, D for MD5 file.com/calculator. Okay. Here, if you upload a document, you will get a hash value. Okay. Now, if you, and there is last 5 minutes, I'll tell you. Generally, a question is asked to me, like last time I spoke on this topic before Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri and Kudal Bar Association. A question was asked to me: how do I prove the Facebook page? How do I prove the WhatsApp? Friends, there are many ways to prove it. You can take a snapshot. You know how to take a snapshot. You take a Samsung, you swipe your hand, you get a snapshot. You can take a snapshot, no difficulty. There are softwares to take snapshots. If you want to take a note of it, they are called duck capture. There is a software called as a duck capture, which can record a screen. Sometimes you need to also record a live website. Particularly, I have a case in High Court where we had to record an online auctioning process. Okay, online auctioning process I had to record. So if you want to record the live website, there is a tool called as FAW. Okay, F for foreign, A for apple, okay, W for wolf. FAW sign, SIGN. FAW sign. Google it, you will get it. You can record a live website, okay, and you can prove it in the court of law. Then there is a software called as a Magnet Acquire. You can use it. If you want to produce a document in the court of law, you can do a simple thing. Right click a document. You will see the properties at the below. Okay. Click on the properties. What you see is called a metadata. Metadata means data about the data, data about the document, or data about the image. Okay. That is good enough to authenticate that document, because that will give you the data about when the file was created, when the file was accessed, when the file was modified, when the file was last modified, who created the file. The metadata will give you that information. Let me tell you, this metadata can be altered. This can be tampered. There are ways to prevent that, but that is not a subject matter of today's discussion. And in the regular course, you will not find anyone tampering with that data. If you want to prove an email, open any email on Google or YouTube or on a Yahoo, you will see header or raw message. If you go to header or raw message of an email, it will give you the raw email, which will tell you from whom the mail has come, which servers it has traveled through, who was the intended recipients, and all that. So you can open the header and you can decrypt the email who had sent you. Okay, this is very important, friends. Let me tell you very frankly, editing the email is the easiest task. I can edit an email which will show that the email has come from maybe say Donald Trump, an official email ID. It is very easy to change that field of from. It is easy to change that field. Every field in the email can be changed. Okay, so the emails on their face are very deceptive, and that's the reason we call a phishing email. Okay, phishing email has been the source of all the scamsters in India, across the world. Okay, they are getting crores of rupees with the phishing emails because they change the from. You will see that it has coming from your bank, but if you open the email header, you will see who is the real sender. Okay, it is very difficult or almost impossible to tamper with the email headers. But this is, we are little now going too much into the forensic part. I think the basics should be good enough for you all. The topic is really vast. We can have CPC into this, CRPC, evidence and all, but we have a time constraints. I think we are already 1 hour 20 minutes. I think I should open the floor for the question and answers. Let me tell you that I will share very soon the citations. Don't worry if you have missed anything. I will share the website if you wish, but let me tell you that they are all copyrighted materials. May not be safe for me to share it in writing with you. You can have a note of it, and there is only one that I mentioned about the hash. Okay, with this, friends, I conclude. I again thank Thane District Bar Association for having me here, and all my listeners who were patient enough in the initial time with some glitches and for some delay in starting the lecture. I thank again all of you. Let me know if there are some queries. We will have it open for next 10 minutes. And if, okay, let me tell you, if you have any independent queries, you can take note of my email ID. You can address your questions to that email ID, yuvraj.narvankar, NARVANKR @yahoo.co.in. yuvraj.narvankar@yahoo.co.in is my email ID. You can divert your queries there. As long as at least this lockdown is there, I think I should be able to reply that within 24 hours. Once the High Court begins, then I may not really assure you how much time will I take to revert on that. But thanks a lot for being here. Yes, the admin, please, if you can open it for the question and answer session. Yes, yeah, please.
Okay, कोणाचे क्वेश्चन्स असेल तर त्यांनी विचारावे प्लीज. कोणाचे क्वेश्चन्स असेल त्यांनी विचारावे. हँड्स अप करून विचारावे तिकडे तुमच्या स्क्रीन वरून.
स्टॉप इथं बोलू दे त्यांची.
हॅलो हॅलो
हॅलो. एक मिनिट, मला एक क्वेश्चन दिसतोय फ्रॉम मिस रेखा. कॅन आय आन्सर दॅट?
येस सर, येस प्लीज सर.
Yes, A and B are husband and wife. Okay. A and B नवरा बायको आहेत. B is in adultery with C. A captured photo of B's WhatsApp message from his mobile. In this case, printout of photo is sufficient. And how to get 65B certificate? Please understand. WhatsApp message चा त्यांनी डायरेक्ट स्नॅपशॉट घेतला नाहीये. त्यांनी ह्या WhatsAppचा ह्या मोबाईल वरून फोटो घेतलाय. Is it admissible? If I am for the opponent's lawyer, I will fight it like anything, because you have not produced the original snapshot. All you are doing is taking the photo of that screen with your mobile. So if something is forged on this screen, there is no way I can verify that. But in a practical scenario, you can do that, because in practical it is very difficult for you to get the mobile handset of your wife and prove that. Okay, what opponent should do is, or the plaintiff should do, or rather the husband should do, is to say on oath that this is what I have taken with my mobile. If you look at 65B(4), it says you have to say that the information is true and correct to the best of my belief. Underline the word to the best of your belief. So the husband did not necessarily vouch for correctness of the wife's mobile. All he can say is, to the best of my belief, wife's mobile was operating properly. This is what was appearing on the wife's screen, and this is what the 65B asks me to say. If court really wants to verify that, court can always summon wife and ask her to give the mirror image, or to mutually inspect it, or send it to a forensic lab. That can always be done. But yes, 65B can be given by the husband about his own processes, about his own printout. Yes.
सर इथे एक पवन बाण म्हणून आहेत,
Yes.
त्यांना मी ऑन करतोय.
Yes.
हा पवन
sir.
पवन सर, हा बोला
हा.
सर. पवन सर बोला.
Please.
सर फोटोग्राफ सोबत 65B चं सर्टिफिकेट जोडणं गरजेचं आहे का?
आवश्यक आहे. फोटोग्राफ जर तुम्ही डिजिटल सिग्नेचर मधून, म्हणजे सॉरी डिजिटल कॅमेरा मधून घेतला असेल, मोबाईल मधून घेतला असेल, तर हो, आवश्यक आहे. इमेज बरोबर तुम्ही जर राईट क्लिक केलं कुठल्या इमेजवर आणि प्रॉपर्टीज पाहिल्यात, तर त्या इमेजचा मेटाडेटा तुम्हाला दिसतो. तो मेटाडेटा जर तुम्ही त्या 65B बरोबर लावला तर ते अजून बेटर आहे. आयडियली इट शुड बी डन. सी, the law is very clear. It may be audio recording, it may be a photo, it may be a email, anything. Okay, the law is the same, that 65B is required the moment it is produced from an electronic device. जर तुम्ही जुन्या काळच्या कॅमेरातून फोटो घेतला असेल, ज्याच्यामध्ये आपण पूर्वी ते कोडॅकचे रोल वगैरे वापरायचो, ब्लॅक अँड व्हाईट, तर आपण पूर्वी निगेटिव्ह द्यायचो. इफ यू रिमेंबर, निगेटिव्ह आपण कोर्टामध्ये हजर करायचो, द प्रायमरी एव्हिडन्स. नाउ द प्रायमरी एव्हिडन्स, दॅट रोल्स आर गॉन. सो द प्रायमरी एव्हिडन्स इज द कॅमेरा इटसेल्फ, द मोबाईल इटसेल्फ. त्यामुळे तुम्ही मेमरी कार्ड प्रायमरी एव्हिडन्स म्हणून प्रोजेक्ट करू शकता. 65B इज रिक्वायर्ड.
थँक्यू सर.
येस. येस.
ठाणे जिल्हा वकील संघटनेवर विनंती आहे की अजून कोणाला प्रश्न विचारायचे असतील तर त्यांनी हात वर करावे.
मी एक मिनिट फक्त चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये चेक
Yes.
करतो. इफ देर आर सर्टन.
Yes, yes,
येस.
sir.
येस. येस.
आहेत सर, त्याच्यात प्रश्न आहेत काही, प्लीज चेक.
असणार आहेत. येस. येस. अँड डोंट वरी, ज्यांचे आन्सर्स असं, प्लीज डोंट फील दॅट if I miss some question, I am not going to answer it. I'll certainly revert on my email. Just let me check. If document is marked with evidence with 60/by certificate, can the person issuing the certificate be of course he can be cross-examined. He has to be cross-examined. You are all aware, in CPC and in the Evidence Act, there are 3 witnesses: witnesses of a fact, witnesses of an opinion, and witnesses of a document. There is a recent judgment of Lordship Justice Naidu. I will share the citation, where he has at length dealt with a law relating to the witness who is summoned only for producing a document. And there he had said, the Lordship Justice had said, that you need not cross-examine the witness who comes only to tender a document. His job is over the moment he comes with a document and tenders it. Okay. But 65B(4) is not that circumstance. In 65B, you are having a certificate signed by the person. Ideally, you will see 65B is in the form of an affidavit. It should be in the form of an affidavit, though the section does not say so. It can be notarized before a court master. So since you are verifying, since you are authenticating the contents, he has to be cross-examined under section 137 of the Evidence Act. You have every right to impeach the credit of the witness. Okay, let me go to another question. In anti-corruption cases, there is a voice recording and there is a transcript of that. Whether required, absolutely certificate is required. There is a High Court judgment which says that only transcript will not do, only certificate, only recording will not do. You have to have both transcript as well as recording and as well as the 65B certificate, because transcript is merely reiteration of what the electronic record says. You have to authenticate the electronic record in the first place, right? You have to
Sorry, sorry.
identify the voice by calling him in the witness box. Okay, the 65B certificate cannot vouch for whose voice it is. Okay, if the document is marked, I think there is this floodgate of the questions and might be some difficulty for me to deal with all of them. I'll just choose few of them and then I'll rest. Rest of them
सर
Yes.
सर इथे एक प्रश्न आहे की व्हॉट्सअप कॉल विच रेकॉर्ड अदर फोन व्हॉइस.
I'm sorry. Please, can you repeat, sir?
इथे सर एक प्रश्न आलाय, हाऊ कॅन
Yes.
प्रूव्ह व्हॉट्सअप कॉल विच रेकॉर्ड अदर फोन व्हॉइस.
How to prove the WhatsApp call which records other phone's voice? Can you please elaborate? Like
कोणीतरी प्रश्न टाकलेला आहे याच्यावरती ग्रुपवरती, म्हणजे त्यांना
See,
दुसरा
let me just tell you. In fact, let me tell you. Let me just presume and answer. WhatsApp call असेल, कोणताही call असेल, all you can do is to put that in a CD or in a pen drive and along with the 65B certificate. You can give how did you record it, at what time did you record it, whether did you use any software to record it. Please mention that. Okay, so the law is the same for all the electronic evidences. Yes, there is someone raising the hand. I think we can just let him in. Husband has cloned wife's mobile, produced chat and pics in the court. Will it be admissible? Yes, it is of course admissible. Certificate is required because you can always give a certificate as to what you did with your wife's. मी तुम्हाला एक क्वेश्चन, just let me clarify one concept to you. बऱ्याच जणांना असं वाटतं की मी वाईफच्या मोबाईलवरनं काहीतरी घेतलं, हाऊ डू आय गिव्ह द सर्टिफिकेट. I am not asking you, the law is not asking you to give certificate about the wife's mobile. You give the certificate as to how did you capture it, what technology did you use. Suppose if this is my wife's mobile and this is my mobile, मी याच्यावरचा फोटो माझ्या मोबाईल न काढतोय, 65B did not deal with this, but 65B has to deal with this, that what camera did I use, what was my mobile model, when did I capture that on my wife's mobile. Of course 65B is required. Did not deal with the wife's mobile, should deal with your mobile. Okay,
अजून काय प्रश्न असतील त्यांनी हात वर करून विचारावे. Any more questions? Please put up the hands.
एकाचा क्वेश्चन आहे, if as a complainant I am giving video recording from phone to police, when does 65B have to be given, while giving to police or while giving evidence before the court? Very good question. Let me answer it. तुम्ही तुमचं एखादं रेकॉर्डिंग पोलिसांना देताय, तुम्ही 65B फॉर प्रिपेअर करून ठेवा. ओके, तुम्ही ते पोलिसांना द्यायची गरज नाहीये. पोलीस इज नॉट दी अथॉरिटी इन लॉ टू रिसीव्ह द एव्हिडन्स. 65B फॉर तुम्हाला कोर्टात द्यायचंय. त्यामुळे इट्स अ व्हेरी गुड क्वेश्चन अँड लेट मी आन्सर दॅट. This is what the contemporaneous certification is all about. जर मी आज evidence create केला असेल, जर हा evidence आज create झाला असेल, I should go to a notary ideally and I should create that certificate that day. If at all I know that I want to go to the court of law tomorrow, not necessarily in every case that I'll anticipate that I will have to go to the court tomorrow. In those cases it can be excused, but when you know that this is going to be the crucial piece of evidence, it is better that you prepare 65B, keep it in the drawer. When you are exhibiting that in the evidence, you should produce it. As I told you in Hemant Rasiklal Ghia, 65B admissibility at the time of evidence. Yes.
Yes. Any
How
more
time and
questions?
place of the electronic evidence can be produced in court if the record is old but pretended to be a new record? Probably the question is that how do I prove that it is the old record, but it is projected to be a new record? That's the reason I told you that you should obtain the mirror image. The moment you obtain the mirror image, you can immediately tell whether it was tampered, whether it was edited, whether it was deleted. And of course, for that, you have to have an access to the forensic expert. Always remember, no one can take a place of a forensic analyst and a forensic expert. You have to have their help. Submit your all material, mirror image to his examination. Let him give you the expert evidence. You can call him under section 45 or 45A as your witness. And if both the parties differ, let it be sent to some forensic lab, maybe in Hyderabad, which is notified under 79A, or a Delhi forensic laboratory. Though in private cases, I don't think that the court will really do that unless you bring a very cogent evidence. And something I must tell you, प्रत्येक case मध्ये don't try to disprove the electronic evidence. Please don't do that exercise in every case. Your clients are the masters. Ask your client that, had you really sent this email? If he says, yes, sir, I had sent it, then please don't do all the exercise that I told you. If your client says, let me tell you in one of my case, which is in fact sub judice, so I won't comment a lot, but there is a problem with the online auction. And my client told me that, sir, there is a problem. I had submitted a tender, but it did not go through. We appointed National Information Commission, NIC, as an expert body, and we analyzed the records. Because my client was confident enough and said on affidavit in the petition that, yes, there was a glitch in a system which every day handled more than thousands of auctions. There was a glitch. He could confidently told me because he had recorded the screen while he was doing the online auction. So only if your client is confident, if your client instructs you, do this exercise. Otherwise, don't waste the time of the court and don't waste your time as well. If an employer is producing a data from a computer which was in the control and domain of the employee, then who has to give 65? Of course, the employer. Why the employee will give something against him? Like a wife's mobile in that example. Do you think the wife will give ever a certificate under 65B? The husband has to give. The similar employer has to give. If employee is agreeable to that certificate, in a sense that if employee wants to give that certificate, if there is nothing against the employee, or if the employer and employee are not fighting together, you can ask the employee, because you have to see who is in charge of the system. Several times employee have a very limited access to their desktop. They can't use the Facebook, they can't use the email in several private organizations. In that case, the employer has to give. Employee is a nominal person at the desk. Okay, in that situation, employer has to give. So it depends on a case to case. Okay, so let me take a last question if there is any, and then we will, I think, close for the day. Let me just see if there is. Okay, I think, is prosecution first proof CD and after 65B certificate? Is it proper procedure? Yes, they can first produce certificate CD, CDR, and then subsequently 65B. I told you the judgment of Sonu. It can be done subsequently, but please remember, it must be done before the document is marked as an exhibit. Once it is exhibited, the window is closed. I think with this, let us close. Thanks a lot for all of you to join me for a webinar. I hope it was some addition to the knowledge that you had. Please let me know in the comment box. Can I please the admin?
2 minutes. Hello, Rupali. रुपाली शिंदे मॅडमला विनंती, त्यांनी ऑनलाईन यावं. Yes, Rupali.
Unmute your audio, ma'am.
हो केलंय.
Unmute
अनम्यूट करा रुपाली मॅडम. हा या बोला रुपाली मॅडम बोला.
ठाणे जिल्हा वकील संघटनेच्या माध्यमातून पार पडलेल्या आजच्या 4थ्या लेक्चर सिरीज मध्ये श्री युवराज नरवणकर सरांनी आपल्याला डिजिटल एव्हिडन्स प्रूव्ह करण्यासंदर्भात सेक्शन 65B च्या अनुषंगाने सुप्रीम कोर्टाचे अनेक सायटेशन्स आणि दाखले देऊन जो विषय आपल्याला प्रभावीपणे समजावून सांगितला, त्याच्यासाठी त्याबद्दल सरांचे मी ठाणे जिल्हा वकील संघटनेमार्फत आभार मानत आहे. यापुढे मला खात्री आहे की आजच्या या लेक्चरला सरांनी दिलेल्या प्रत्येक टिप्स मधून आणि सरांनी जे आपल्याला समजावून सांगितलं, शिकवलं, त्याचा आपल्याला नक्कीच भविष्यात फायदा होईल. ठाणे जिल्हा आमच्या कमिटी मार्फत आयोजित करण्यात येणारे पुढील लेक्चर हे संघटनेचे सदस्य व आता कर्नाटक हायकोर्टाचे चीफ जस्टिस असलेले श्री अभय ओक सर यांचे असून पोस्ट कोविड-19 चॅलेंजेस आणि रिफॉर्म्स या संदर्भात अभय ओक सर आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करणार आहेत. दिनांक 23 मे रोजी सकाळी 11 वाजता आपल्याला सर मार्गदर्शन करण्यासाठी येणार आहेत. तर आपण सर्वांनी कृपया बदललेल्या वेळेची दखल घेऊन 11:45 ऐवजी आपण सकाळी 11 वाजता ऑनलाईन यायचं आहे झूम वरती आणि श्री अभय ओक सरांनी आपल्याला जे मार्गदर्शन करणार आहेत त्याचा लाभ घ्यायचा आहे. आपण दिलेल्या वेळेबद्दल सगळ्यांचे आभार आणि पुन्हा एकदा युवराज सरांचे आभार. धन्यवाद.
थँक्यू रुपाली.
थँक्यू संदीप.
Thank you, sir. Okay, logging out.
ओके, लॉग इन आउट कर.
Okay. Yeah.